Welcome to SpellCast, the Gaming Wizards podcast. Nobody showed up for D&D today, so we get to do another one, and it hasn't been a full year since the last one, so we don't have quite as much to. It's not going to be another 4-hour long one.
Yeah, a bit of progress, at least in that regard of consistency, but we could still be more consistent.
Yeah, well,
but yeah,
wouldn't push it.
Yeah, but yeah, we definitely pretty much everyone but you spaced D&D today. I'm pretty sure, because I definitely did not realize what day it was. I was like, oh, today's Thursday, innit? And then did finally get a response from someone else who was just like, oh shit, sorry, I totally forgot. And it's like, it's okay, I think we all kind of did.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the only reason I remembered it is because it's on the Google Calendar. And
yeah.
I also have a family Google Calendar, so I'm looking at it
Regularly.
more frequently than probably other people are. So it shows up on there with all the other stuff that everyone else in my family has put on there, like work schedules and whatnot. So
see, I've been trying to use my Google Calendar more, but the last couple of weeks I've been sick, just kind of congested, and because of that I've been just sleeping a lot. So I'll go to bed at my usual 4 a.m. and then I won't get out of bed until 3 p.m. the next day. I'm getting 11 to 12 hours of sleep for the last week. It's been kind of awesome, actually.
That's good, especially if you're sick. I mean, that's one of the best things you can do for that. So
yeah, it's been nice. And usually I start most mornings with a hot shower just to get rid of the congestion. Didn't today, though. Today I just kind of woke up and I was like, I'm a little out of it.
So,
but yeah.
SpellCast.
I'm part of me is trying to remember what we talked about even last time we did it, because it's been so long. And there's the part of me where it's was the last one before or after I had finally gotten around to beating Borderlands 3? Because I really don't remember, and we always talk about Borderlands.
Yeah.
But it's
I actually did go back and start listening through most of the previous episode, just to see if there was anything to make sure we didn't repeat too much stuff, and we did talk a good bit about Borderlands. I don't remember if you specifically mentioned having beaten the the main story. We talked a lot about the DLC and varying quality and how some of them were better and some of them were just kind of meh. But
now to this point, I have still only played the one DLC. The Love and Tentacles one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think last time you had done any of them. So
yeah.
I think that must have been in the intervening months.
Yeah, taking a quick look at my Steam library, it was a couple months after that when I last had played the game. So I think that's about when I'd finally finished it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, Love and Tentacles, pretty good, and definitely enjoyed it. I had forgotten that Aaron is one of the voices.
He's the tavern, tavern keeper, the innkeeper, whatever.
Yeah, Mancubus. But man, the realization and then hearing his voice, it's oh yeah, no, that's Aaron. You can definitely, hear his voice in that.
I am the innkeeper. I will give you missions and you will complete them.
Great character, too. But yeah. It, overall, the game, I don't want to linger on Borderlands too long. I had to bring it up because it always comes up in every SpellCast.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, get it out of the way early and then we can
First
move on to
fast.
other stuff. But, like, overall, I feel like the game, like, the main story was kind of, like, eh. Like, it had, like, some cool ideas that didn't really pay off very well, I felt. Like, oh god, what's his name? The first Vault Hunter.
Oh, Typhon.
Yeah, Typhon de Leon. Like, him showing up at the end was like a good way to like kind of tie everything together, and all like the audio logs he fell, and like the joke of him just being like this like little guy that's just kind of ridiculous. Like, was pretty good, but like, I don't know. Like, they like kill him right at the end.
Yeah,
it's just like it didn't feel like that needed to happen. And then like the whole like thing that like the Calypsos were like his kids is like, okay, like I guess, I don't know. I wasn't wowed by it.
Like, if you look back, you can see that it's kind of set up, but it does, like, at the moment, kind of feel like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just very, sudden.
And then it's like, after the fact, when you find more, when you're on, like, the last planet, and you find, like, some of their audio logs from the time they were all together, and it's like, okay, I can see how this came to be, but it still does kind of not feel, like, very well, like, incorporated into the story. Like, I don't know if that necessarily needed to happen the way it did, but
yeah, it does feel just very like thrown in.
But yeah,
yeah. And then of course I will always have my complaints about Maya's death.
Yeah,
that
was
how,
something we did extensively go into
that is
last
something
time.
we have talked about a lot,
and probably other times before.
Yeah, and how the kid is just such a
I'm not gonna watch every
not
single
character.
One of our episodes because there's like, I don't know how many hours that we have, but I'm not gonna go back and be like, okay, yeah, we talked about this and this and this and this and this in these episodes, so don't talk about it again. Like, if we repeat stuff, we repeat stuff. Who fucking cares?
If they did more with the character, the little girl that inherits Maya's powers, Hopeless or whatever, if they did more with her and like she actually felt like she had any sort of impact, I think it would have bothered me less by the end. But she never felt like she had any kind of impact and was just kind of there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about like Lilith's like sacrifice at the end. It's like, did you really need to kill off like kind of the like flagship character at this point? Like, she's been like a major character in the story since 2.
Yeah.
And it just like I don't know. It doesn't feel like it has a good payoff. Excuse me. But like, I don't think her death was like necessarily bad. I just don't know like if it really adds enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, I don't know. It does. It seems like a payoff to something that wasn't built up enough to do that, and I think they kind of tried, like, throughout 3 and the DLC from 2, Commander Lilith.
Yeah,
because that was about her basically trying to be the leader that Roland was, and it works, but you know, it could have
worked.
Could have
better.
done better. Could have done more to develop her enough to the point where big heroic sacrifice at the end really feels like a payoff, a good end to that character's arc.
Yeah, I feel like the choice to take away her powers at the beginning, like, initially that's like an interesting setup, but then, like, to basically have her be powerless and unable to do anything for, like, the entire game, and then she gets her powers back at the end and immediately heroic sacrifices, does seem weird. Like, okay, you got your powers back now, go kill yourself. Like, if she was able to do more in the intervening time between, like, those points. But, I don't know. 3 overall, kind of sloppy. Solid gameplay, though.
Yeah.
The game feels really good.
No complaints whatsoever. Except maybe a couple of bosses I've had, complaints about. Like, especially early on when it was first coming out and there were still glitches. Like, the teleporting Goliath boss fight. When I did that fight for the first time, it was still, like pre a lot of patches, because the game had only been out for like a few days, or like maybe a week or something at that point.
Very early in, when it was still very rough.
Yeah. So that teleporting Goliath, he teleported outside the arena and did not teleport back inside.
Good. We love to see it.
Yeah, so I had to restart that area and hope he didn't do that again. And he didn't, so, there's that. And, I think that was, in the main game, that was the only boss I had trouble with, and it wasn't because of, like, difficulty or the design or anything, it was just a glitch. Everything else was, it was a fun boss fight, or, it was not a boss fight because I melted the boss by using a grenade that I did not know was glitched, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, the second vault monster that you fight, the Grave Warden or whatever on,
vaguely remember the vault fights.
Yeah, well, it's the one that Tannis, like, vaporizes so Tyreen can't, like, absorb it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has, like, so I had there's a unique grenade. It's not legendary. You get it from doing, like, a mission, like, earlier on that same planet, I think. It basically just does, like, a pool of radiation damage. And apparently, on really big enemies, it just eats them.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, when I was, the first time I was fighting that boss, I thought it was like another phase or something that I was going into, because, like, I got it down to, like, half health normally, or, like, maybe a little more than half health. And then I threw that grenade at it, and it just died. And I was like, oh, did I just, like, trigger a second phase of the boss fight or something? Or it's like, but no, it just went into the cutscene, the thing dies, and I'm like, oh, that was it. What's that? Was that supposed to happen? Did I do something to kill that?
Did I break something?
Yeah, and then I found out, like, a good while afterward that particular grenade was glitched and would do that to pretty much any decently sized enemy. So...
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And I think they have since patched it so it doesn't do that anymore, but I'm not sure. I haven't...
I would suspect by this point it's been patched, but who knows?
Yeah, like, it's...
It does feel like they kind of, like, they finished, like, releasing the DLC, which... we've talked before are very, like, hit and miss. And then they just kind of immediately shifted focus to just Wonderlands.
I have not even tried Wonderlands yet. I don't know, like...
I haven't gotten a chance to try it either.
I was kind of excited for it when they were first announcing it, and like, oh, cool, another Borderlands game. And then, as time went on, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just not into the idea anymore for some reason.
Yeah. I kind of had a similar thing where, like, the initial announcement I was excited for. And I think part of it... Excuse me, Jesus. I think part of it was just, like, the idea that it would be, like, more of a fantasy kind of setup. But then, like, it's just Borderlands gameplay. It's just basically more of Assault on Dragon's Keep, which, don't get me wrong, I still think is, like, the best DLC they did.
Mm-hmm.
But it does feel weird to have, like, something that is more focused on, like, the fantasy idea, but it's still a gun game.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've heard good stuff about it, generally. There was a few streamers I follow that were streaming it when it, like, came out. But also, like, there doesn't seem like there's a lot of conversation about it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, like, it came out and people are like, yeah, it's decent. And then it just kind of quietly fell off into the wind.
I was thinking, like, yeah, it's on Steam now, so I'll maybe wait for it to go on a decent sale, because, I mean, Borderlands stuff goes on sale all the time. So
yeah.
Give it a...
If there's one thing we can appreciate about Gearbox, they are willing to put their stuff on sale.
Yeah.
Unlike some companies.
And, if it's not doing well, then they'll put it on sale even faster, probably. Try to get what they can out of it before, abandoning it if it's doing that badly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I haven't heard bad things about it. It's just like it seems like it's just kind of like, okay, it's there, it's decent, but it's not like
making waves.
Yeah, it's not pulling a Borderlands 2 where it's like this huge phenomenon of just like, oh, this is amazing, and it's not like Borderlands 3 where it's like we had waited so long and then it kind of like didn't live up to the expectations, and so there's a lot of talk about different aspects of it, and it's just kind of like it's there.
Yeah,
which is fine. It's just, I don't know.
I mean, it won't be the quintessential bad game in the series.
Yeah,
which there hasn't been yet. So
yeah, I think the worst,
like even the worst game in the series is still really good. They're doing something right.
Yeah. Whether or not, like, the writing holds up across the series, because, like, it definitely goes in waves of, like, how good, like, the writing is. The gameplay is always pretty solid.
Yeah.
And, like, the worst one gameplay-wise is
probably
the first one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that makes sense. It's the first one, and they've improved since then. Yeah, and it still is, like, it's still not a bad game.
Yeah, like, it's still fun. I mean, there's...
The worst you can say is that it is dated.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this has definitely been improved on since, and
it gets a little repetitive with the gun play, but it's still a solid shooter. I would play it again, maybe not anytime soon, but eventually.
Well, and there's still things.
I did go back and play it again because I mean, I'd only played through it once, by the time the second game came out, and I don't think I'm trying to remember when I did my second playthrough of the first game. It must have been before 3 came out, but I'm not entirely sure.
I've only actually gone all the way through 1 once. I've started a few times after that, but I've never actually, like, finished a second playthrough. But, like, even the first game, there's stuff, like, about what it does with its gameplay that I prefer to later entries. Like, I like that there's, like, individual skills based on, like, different guns.
Yeah.
And how, like, if you use one gun type, like, you get a lot of bonuses for that gun type. 'Cause it actually made me switch around gun types a lot more often, because I wanted to kind of, like, keep levels kind of even across them and, like, get those different bonuses. And then I always had my main gun that was, like, my go-to, or, like, okay, if shit goes bad, I switch to an SMG, because Sirens plus SMGs equals broken game.
Yeah. Or Soldier plus Legendary Assault Rifle with, like, 500% clip size. So you basically never have to reload.
Yeah, that'll do it.
On top of whatever bonuses your stat tree gives you to clip size.
Yeah. But yeah. I do want to try Wonderlands at some point. It's just definitely not high priority right now.
Yeah, there's other stuff coming out, and has come out since then that's been more higher on my list, for sure.
The biggest thing I'm hyped for right now is Potionomics.
I noticed they've been updating They came back to Tumblr at least, like, recently, like a couple weeks ago. So they've been...
It was like maybe like a month or two ago they finally they released like a new trailer and they gave a release date. And since then they've been posting a little more regularly on Tumblr again. Did you see the most recent posts?
Maybe. There was concept art for the cat character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one.
They have cat
like
pirates.
Cat pirate, yeah.
And they have like meowing sea shanty music. It's so good. I'm really into it. That game looks like it'll be a lot of fun and like very much up my alley of like it's partial like shop management, partial like kind of deck builder, and it's like there's all these like weird mix of elements that's like this is like Reciteer meets Slay the Spire in my brain, and I'm kind of into that. Like I'm about it. And just like the animations for the characters are really expressive.
Yeah, and
which
the character designs and everything. Yeah. It looks like an interesting one. I can't say that I will get obsessively into it when I do get a chance to play it, but I mean, it's got my attention, and I will be looking into it when it does come out. So
I will, because my money has been a little wonky lately. Things are definitely getting a little tight, but it is one that I plan on trying to make sure I have the money to buy on release, because I really want to play that game. And I will figure out what I need to make that happen.
Yeah.
God.
So, other stuff that has come out or gotten a chance to play since our last episode. Elden Ring and the new Horizon game. I got them both at the same time and had to decide which one I wanted to play, because I kind of figured after spending so many hours in one open world game, I would not want to look at another open world game for a good while, and that didn't end up being the case. I went pretty much straight into Horizon after I finished Elden Ring. So, yeah, I'm a good ways into Horizon, and I have, quote, beaten Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Because I definitely did not have a random co-op partner who may or may not have actually been hacking, basically solo one of the hardest bosses in the game for me.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
Sometimes it'd be like that. Fuck Malekith. I'm pretty sure I could have soloed Melania, but I didn't want to spend hours and hours and hours beating my head against that wall when I could
just summon someone in.
Yeah. Not to say that it was an easy fight,
right.
Not to say that anybody who's like, oh yeah, it's the hardest fight in the game, not to say that they're full of shit or anything. Like, I can definitely see her being, like, a Sephiroth level pain in the ass. Because she is very fast, she heals anytime she hits you, whether she does damage or not.
Yeah.
And she has she does some status stuff too, which is annoying, but yeah, she is, she's qualified from soft boss, to be sure. But Malekith is pure bullshit.
Melania, I know, has had like a lot of discussion around her for being very hard. And I do think it's very dependent on character build. The video I showed you that bit from earlier by Noah Caldwell-Gervais, when he does those like review videos, he gets all the endings and kind of talks about them all. So like he played through the game multiple times with multiple different character builds, and he fought Melania in all of those playthroughs. And he kind of like breaks down like how the fight goes depending on like which build he approached her with. So like his first build like struggled, but like his second attempt just kind of blew her out of the water. Jesus.
Yeah, and that's that's the thing with these these games in general, like the Soulsborne genre. It's like the level of difficulty you're going to encounter is very heavily dependent on what kind of character you make. Like if you start out with like, oh, I'm gonna do a squishy magic character from the beginning, and you don't put any points into like strength or vitality or dexterity or whatever, you're going to have a much harder time because you're probably not going to get any decent magic stuff until,
like mid to late
game, yeah. So you're going to struggle in the early game and then just decimate everything in the late game, or you build a well-rounded character and just have a difficult time throughout the entire game.
Yeah, well-rounded doesn't always work super well in those games.
Yeah.
There will definitely be parts where you struggle. I know, because I basically always do a quality build. Like, I usually lean a little more dex, because that's just my playstyle. I like faster weapons. But, I definitely have had fights where I struggle because of my, like, decision to be more balanced.
Yeah. Bloodborne pretty much taught me, like, strength. Hit hard. Hit many times. Run away. Dodge. Strength and endurance. That's all I need. And a really heavy weapon.
Which,
that
works.
If you can stagger lock them, then, they're not hitting you, so it doesn't matter what armor you have. Or in my case, in anything other than Bloodborne, it doesn't matter if you have no armor on, because, I mean, I kind of need to be able to dodge spam, because...
That's the most important part of Dark Souls, being able to roll good.
Yeah. And that was probably the number one thing I liked more. The number one reason I like Bloodborne more than any of the other FromSoft games is the dodging is so much more, like, it's faster, and it doesn't give a shit what armor you have on.
It is a game...
Because most of what you wear isn't even armor, so there's that, but...
It is a game that is very much built around aggression and rewarding you for aggression.
Yeah. And you can take that strategy and apply it to the Dark Souls games, and it works pretty well. Because, I mean, as evidenced by the fact that I was able to beat 2 Dark Souls games and Elden Ring.
Post-beating Bloodborne.
Yeah, post-beating Bloodborne. Because I was like, oh, okay, I just need to be as aggressive as I am in Bloodborne, even though it's not quite the same system. If I just run in there, hit, I'm almost out of stamina, dodge away, or dodge into, depending on whatever. Just
depending on the
dodge.
Attack. Yeah, dodge.
Use the last bit of stamina I have to dodge, and then run away while it recharges, and then get in there and just hit it with my giant axe.
Jesus. Yeah, Elden Ring, probably not a game I'll get around to playing, just because me and open worlds don't mix well. Like, there are open world games I love, and I've never finished. Mm-hmm. Just because I get so easily distracted from them.
That's understandable.
Like, Horizon Zero Dawn is a good example where, like, I have something like 70% completion in that game. Just from going around the map and doing stuff. I've done maybe 3 storyline quests.
Oh.
Like, post getting out of, like, the starting area.
Wow.
Like, I'm very early in the main story, but I have... like, all the best shit. Minus the, like, OP suit of armor that you can only get by going through the story.
Yeah.
Though I did find where it is. Like, I found, like, the cave where you find it.
You find it, like,
it's
pretty early on.
It's very close to the starting area, and it's, like, it's easy to find if you're looking around for stuff. Yeah. But that's a game I'll probably never finish. Last time I went back to try to, like, play it again, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm getting wrecked by everything. I also think they might have nerfed my go-to strategy for some stuff. I would use the, I think it's called like the rope caster.
Hmm.
The thing where like you shoot it into the enemy and it like ties them down.
Yeah.
I think they nerfed it.
Huh.
And like between when I like was first playing and like when I went back to the game shortly before the sequel was coming out, because I used to be able to basically like when I would fight the Thunderbirds, fucking Zapdos, I would just like tether him to the ground and I'd just shoot a bunch of tethers until it like stuck, like, you know, knocked him over, and then I'd like shoot some damage into him, and then before the tether ran out I would just start retethering him. And so he would never get up.
Wow.
But they break out much faster than I remember them breaking out. So I think at some point they had to have nerfed that, because
could be.
I remember being able to spend a lot more time keeping stuff tied down without them breaking out of it.
I vaguely remember using the rope caster a little bit in my first playthrough, and then I went and played through it again because the second one was coming out, it was in the time leading up to the release of the second one. I wanted to play through the first one again, and I just played through it on like the easiest difficulty and annihilated absolutely everything, because it's like I don't need a refresher on the gameplay. I need to remember these characters and the story,
right,
that I've forgotten. I remember the major, you know, story beats, but like
you forget some of the like little bits.
When I get into 2, it's gonna be like, oh, this is that character from the first game. You remember them? And like, yeah, you're
that guy.
That guy. Yeah, so like when I did finally get into 2, I was like, yay, it's that guy. I remember you. I don't remember you, but apparently Aloy does, because I didn't do your side quest either the first or second time I played the game. Yeah. But so far there's only been one of those, so I think I was pretty thorough the first time I played through the game, I guess, because
now
everybody else so far that I've met, it's like, yeah, I do remember you. I don't remember you. Like, apparently we fought a giant mutated Thunderjaw together, I guess. So
oh, it's probably from the like Hunters Guild quest.
That it might be that,
because I remember that. I remember that vividly.
Yeah. Like, I remember getting that quest in my second playthrough when I was going on easy mode and kind of speedrunning it, but I didn't do it then, and I must not have done it the first time either, because
yeah, you have to do. You have to do like all the like little Hunters Guild things to get like all the sun medals or whatever, and then you go to like the main like lodge, and there's like the one quest where you go and you hunt like Red Eye, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
it's
red something.
Yeah, it's something like that, and it's just like this like very aggressive Thunderjaw that's like slightly bigger than the other ones, if I remember right. It's a hell of a fight. But then, like, that's kind of it, and I was expecting a little more from the Hunter's Lodge, like, once you get in, but, like, that's the only quest once you get in. You do get a pretty good, like, reward for finishing all that, though, so it's worth it, but it's just, like, I was expecting a little more payoff, I think.
Yeah, and, yeah, it's kind of, that's most of the, like, major side quests, they kind of, the payoff is, like, story, and meeting these characters, because it's like, and especially if you go into 2, because apparently you need to remember all these major characters. So when I was going through the story the second time, I did make sure to do a couple of the like major side quests that I remembered. So, and I was glad I did, because those characters do show up in the second one, and they remember you, and you have to talk to them and interact with them throughout the rest of the game.
So it helps to have that refresher.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's like I remember in the first game, because your like this guy's sister was killed by bandits or whatever, and we helped him like save her and stuff, but she still died. So it's like that's a major part of his character development. It's like, need to remember that for the second game, because he's still kind of
dealing with shit
like that, and it's like, yeah, okay, so we're not resetting any characters. These are still characters who have gone through a lot of shit in the first game. So
now, I have generally heard that people aren't as impressed with the second game.
I mean,
I don't know if it's purely a gameplay thing, purely a story thing, or a mix of both, but I do know that like a lot of people that have finished that game don't think it lives up to the first one.
hard to say. I'm probably like 2/3 of the way through the like main story, because there is a part where it kind of branches off and you can do like, it's like there's 3 main missions that you have to do, but you can do them, whenever. It's
yeah.
Like, one is here, and one is all the fucking way over there, and yeah, I've done 2 of those. I just did the second one like a couple days ago, so. And then, as you do each one, you get a little bit more you do the first one, and then you get you're kind of locked into like the main story for this development, and then it lets you out, to do the rest of them. As far as the story, I don't like, like the twist, like the reveal from the first game, basically.
Yeah, I more or less remember, because I did watch a few like stuff that went over like the whole game.
So the first time I was playing through it, and I got to the point where it's like, okay, this is what actually happened to this world. This is why the world ended and everything like that. I was like, you go through the building and eventually find like the hologram recording of everybody talking about like what actually happened. But leading up to that, you find like the text logs and audio logs of people kind of talking vaguely about stuff.
Right.
And I was putting that together, and I'm like, holy shit, that's what happened, isn't it? Like, they basically did a, I don't know, spoiler warning for the first and second Horizon Zero Dawn game, or, I don't know.
Spoiler for the game that came out like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I mean, people, I didn't play it until, like, it was already out for a couple of years, so, I mean,
yeah.
I probably would have been annoyed if I had, well, I don't know if I would have been annoyed, but it wouldn't have had as big an impact, because I had a holy shit moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's like you're reading this text log, and it's like a report of this swarm of nanomachines, like, eating a whale, and I'm like, oh god, that's what ended the world. They released a swarm of nanomachines, and it ate everything, didn't they? And then you get to the, like, hologram recording, and they're talking about, like, how do we stop this swarm of nanomachines that's eating everything? And I'm like, that's what fucking happened. Holy shit. And I don't know, it just seemed like a really good twist, because, it's like, because the main question is, like, obviously the world ended somehow, nobody knows how,
Right.
but it didn't really end because humans survived and there's still, like, wildlife around, so obviously somebody stopped the swarm. It's like, nope, they didn't stop it. It ate everything and then shut down on its own because it didn't have anything left to eat. And the only reason humans are still alive is because we cloned ourselves. It's like, oh, that's the twist, huh?
I do remember there being like a big thing of like, you're a clone baby from the machine.
Yeah.
It was like a
And
big thing.
I mean, if you pay attention, like, you can spot that twist coming, like, from very early on, because, like, there's the part where it, like, genetic scans Aloy before she goes into, like, the mountain or whatever, and it says, like, you have a 99% genetic match to this person. It's like, nobody has a 99% genetic match to anybody unless they're a fucking clone. So
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so she's not related to that person, she is that person. But yeah, I didn't catch that the first time I played through it. I didn't even notice that until I was like reading the TV tropes page. I'm like, oh yeah, it does say like she's like 99% match or whatever. It's like, yeah, that doesn't happen unless she's like I think it's like an identical twin or a clone.
Yep.
And can't possibly be an identical twin because that lady died like 400 years ago.
Some time has passed.
Yeah. So yeah, there's another twist in the second game, obviously, because there has to be, because I mean, that's a big thing. Doesn't have the same like holy shit impact on me. Like,
Gotcha.
like it's it's an interesting one, and it is set up in the first game, but
Huh. Okay.
it's yeah. I mean, I'm a little more worried about going into spoilers on this one, but I'll give a decent warning because I mean, you're probably not likely to reach that point where they reveal that, maybe, or I don't know.
I mean, the likelihood of me playing the second game at this point is pretty low in general, so...
Okay, so, well, there's a spoiler warning for the second Horizon game, which is a much more recent release, so... so...
Maybe...
Do you recall, at any point in the first game, when they talk about sending a ship into deep space, and it like, has a catastrophic failure and basically explodes along the way because it's people trying to escape from the...
Does not sound familiar to me.
Okay, well, it is set up. There's a couple of, like, references to it in the first game. You find, like, some audio logs or
Sure.
text logs or, like, whatever. Turns out the ship did not explode on its journey to, like, a distant star system. They made it. And, they fucked up the planet they landed on and colonized, and decided to come back to Earth, and they want to take over because they had more technologically advanced technology, so they basically became immortal, godlike humans with crazy advanced technology, and they want to take over Earth.
Yeah, okay.
So they need to, like, They're trying to basically take over the computer system that was supposed to oversee the terraforming after the nanoswarm basically ate everything. And, you know, they're basically the antagonists for the game. It's this crew of people from a ship that went to escape from Earth, and then they fucked up the planet they colonized, so they're coming back to Earth, and they want to take over Earth. And I was like, huh. That's a good twist, but it's not on the level of the first games, like,
right.
big reveals. And I don't know, maybe there's going to be more to it. Like I said, I'm only about
2/3 of the way.
Probably about 2/3 of the way
Yeah.
through the game. Maybe there's more stuff, but so far as the storyline is going, it's okay. Like, I don't hate it or anything. I'm not offended by, like, it's like, oh, I saw that coming a mile away. Like,
yeah,
it's just not on the same level as the first game.
Right.
And there's a kind of a, not quite a cliffhanger, but they set up the second game at the end of the first game, where did you ever meet Silence in your playthrough? The guy who's spying on Aloy through, like, the computer network, and you eventually... I think it's a good while after you get out of the starting area when you meet him. He's like a super major important character. He's basically like another... he's basically like Aloy, but, you know, from a... Like, he's been at this whole, you know, exploring the technology of the old ones and learning more about them and all that stuff. And, you know, he can override machines just like her, and...
Right.
And it turns out that he first... Like, he started out helping the bad guys, but he kind of realizes, like, these guys are kind of being assholes, so I'm gonna stop helping them, but... And he kind of wants to undo some of the really bad stuff he helped them do.
Right.
And it turns out that he basically learned much of what he learned from this AI core that was controlling the evil nanoswarm, and it's trying to manipulate him into reactivating the swarm that has been deactivated. And well, it's manipulating the bad guys. Silence figures this out, and he's like, "I'm not going to help you do that. That's not good for anybody." And but yeah, at the end of the game, basically you defeat the evil AI core, but there's it like sends out this, you know, fancy hologram data stream that nobody sees, so nobody knows what's going on. But Silence basically captures that in like this little portable thing, and he's like, "Okay, you're gonna keep telling me information." So it's basically still a threat.
Right.
And Aloy thinks she destroyed it, but she didn't. And he's like, I'm gonna hook you up to this big AI core so you can keep giving me information about, human civilization and stuff. And you think that it's setting him up to be like the villain in the second game or whatever, because, like the AI is gonna manipulate him into putting it in something, like one of the big death machines or whatever. And that doesn't happen. There's like basically no payoff so far. I mean, as far as like, until like you basically follow him, you track him down because you figure out that he did what he did. And by the time you meet him, he's basically tortured this angry AI into giving him what he wants and left it for dead. Because so it's part of the Gaia AI, which was supposed to help terraform the planet after the swarm destroyed it. And it was a subroutine that was supposed to destroy the ecosystem if the main system wasn't building it right. So if like the plant life is like too, if the soil gets too acidic or whatever, basically if the ecosystem can't support life, this system is supposed to kick in and just wipe it clean and tell the main system to start over. And the inciting incident of the game is that AI gets activated when it's not supposed to, so it's trying to reactivate the swarm to destroy all life on Earth again. And yeah, so you end the game by basically isolating it in this portable thing. And yeah, it's kind of funny because like Silence basically he tortures it into giving him more information by playing it like calming like landscape holograms and stuff. It's like this is a herd of peaceful animals and adorable bunny rabbits and stuff like that, and this AI just like hates that, and it's like begging him to stop, so it just tells him everything he wants to know.
That's really funny.
But yeah, after you track him down, I mean you don't track him down, he's long gone by the time you catch up to the AI thing, but you destroy the AI for good. And then that's basically it. Like that's the payoff that was set up at the end of the first game. So it's like, okay, well that's kind of
anticlimactic.
That was a little bit anticlimactic. I thought they were setting up a lot more. But then they also do imply that he knows more than he's letting on about the people who came back on the ship. Because I mean, when you first meet them, or you're about to meet them, because they're like kind of coming into this facility that you have been working your way through earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they're friends, they want the same thing we want. And it's like, okay, the second thing you said is true. They want the same thing we want. They want control of the terraforming system that we are trying to reboot because, it's kind of gone a little bit off the rails and we need to make sure it's not going to kill all life on the planet again.
Right.
But yeah, they want it so that they can take control of the Earth, and we want it so we can basically save life on Earth from being destroyed again. And then that's the last you hear of him. He's like, yeah, don't worry about these guys, they're cool. They turn out not to be cool, and I haven't heard from him since that relatively early story mission. So
well, hopefully that pays off a little more later.
I'm kind of hoping that pays off. I'm not that close to the end of the game, so there's still plenty of time for something to come out of that. But yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown in terms of things that have been set up so far. But
even just kind of hearing about that, like I can already kind of see where like some people probably have some issue with the second game.
As far as the gameplay
like,
goes,
not living up to the first.
I mean, the gameplay so far, it's been nothing but improvement. Like
that's good.
Yeah, like it's like I'm playing a better version of the first game. There's new weapons and stuff. I mean, I'm mostly just using the bow and different versions of the bow and a couple of like special traps and stuff. But I mean, it kind of makes me want to experiment with more of the other ones. But the upgrade system is a little different now, and it makes me a little less willing to experiment with like new weapons because you have to upgrade them to make them worth using. But it's like I don't know if I want to spend these very rare resources on upgrading this thing when I might find something better down the line that might be worth, spending these resources
Right.
upgrading. So it's like,
kind of that, like,
I
not sure you
know-
want to put the time investment into
Yeah.
that extra grind.
Yeah, so it's like I know I like the precision bow because I did a lot of sniping in the first game, lot of stealth kills. I know I like the regular bow for elemental stuff and whatever, and I like the tripwire thing.
Those are
So
fun.
those are the ones I mostly. Oh, and the like bomb slinging thing.
Yeah.
Different elemental bombs and stuff. Mostly just the explosive ones, but yeah. But there's also like a saw blade kind of boomerang thing, which is really neat. And if you can get it to work,
Sounds cool.
if you can get it to work, it just destroys some of the bigger machines. But it's kind of finicky, and I like the idea of it, but it's kind of not. It doesn't work very well for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's just a lot of other new weapons and stuff. So
Yeah.
as far as the gameplay, it's I definitely like it. Maybe the upgrade system is a little too overhauled for my liking, but whatever. I do wish Aloy would shut the fuck up and let me figure out some of these puzzles on my own instead of trying to Dora the Explorer me through every fucking area.
The overly talky protagonist.
Yeah,
problem.
Nothing against the voice actor. I think she's fine. I like the character. Stop talking while I'm trying to do shit.
Yeah.
I know I can use the focus to scan the area and find whatever thing I'm looking for, okay? I know I can hook a grappling hook to that thing because it's yellow. I know I can do all this shit. You don't need to tell me 12 hours into the fucking game that I can do these things.
Yeah, that's...
Well, I mean, with having played through the first one, it's probably like 40 hours into the game if you count equivalent experience.
Sure, yeah.
Because, I mean, the focus works the exact same way. Slightly, actually, there's... you can do, you can scan, or you can do, a pulse, which highlights things that are interactive. I do like that. But, yeah, it's...
Fair enough.
It's basically the exact same. So.
Yeah.
If you've played the first game, all you need to know is, instead of just tapping the button to go into scan mode, you tap it to do a pulse, or you hold it down to go into scan mode. That's the only thing.
Fair enough. Which is a simple, upgrade.
Really easy to get used to.
Well...
Just, stop telling me that I can do that every 5 goddamn minutes.
Well...
And there's even, options... There's options to be okay, tell me tutorial stuff less often. Apparently it doesn't affect what Aloy says.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So it's you don't need to remind me that I can do these things every 5 minutes like you did in the first game, which I did think was really annoying. I'm glad I can turn that off. Why can't I tell Aloy to shut up?
I'm trying to remember, I feel like there was a game I played recently that, had that similar problem of, the protagonist just constantly, being I could do this thing. Yeah, I'm working on it. I can't remember what it was, though, but I feel like I've recently experienced that as well. But yeah.
It's always physics-based puzzle games, too. It's where the protagonist is you need to move the box to this place. I'm yeah, I fucking know. It won't go there because of the physics engine. I have been trying for 10 goddamn minutes to move the box onto the button. Just let me move the box onto the fucking button and stop telling me what to do.
The worst is when you're, when they give you that, reminder while you are actively doing the thing they're trying to remind you of.
Yeah. It's okay, do you think I'm fucking stupid because it's taking me longer because of your goddamn finicky little physics engine that just had to be in this game when it really didn't need to be in this game? You don't need a physics engine for a sliding box puzzle. It's you pull the box on a horizontal plane. It's two-dimensional movement. The box doesn't even go anywhere.
It doesn't need to be overly complicated.
Like, oh, but this box is up on a high ledge that you can't reach, but it has a yellow thing on it. That means you can grapple it. Like, really? I did not realize I could do that after doing it 14 fucking times in this same fucking level.
It's like, wait, you mean I can interact with the things that are painted in the interact color?
I know you have to go into designing a game like this with the assumption that every player is playing a video game for the first fucking time. But fucking hell!
Like, sure, but, like, there's ways to do it right, and there's ways to be, like, overbearing about it. Like, you give, like, a tutorial pop-up the first time they encounter that. Maybe the second time. It doesn't have to be a reminder from the character every single time you do the thing.
Or even just, when I turn off the option for excessive tutorials, make that apply to the actual protagonist of the game too.
Yeah.
I don't need running commentary on every single thing I do, because I know you're trying to be helpful, but I know what I'm supposed to do. I need to move the box so I can get up onto that ledge, so I can get that box down. Or whatever the fuck.
Right.
It's always like some variant of move the box around.
As those kind of things tend to be.
Yeah. Or it's like with, in the Horizon games, it's like okay, use the focus. These things are highlighted. You can interact with those. Cool, got it. Very rarely, it's like I know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know. I can't find where is this ledge that I'm supposed to grab to climb up to where I'm supposed to do it. It's something stupid like that. And in that case, telling me I can use the focus to find a ledge to grab doesn't fucking help if I can't use the focus to find the fucking ledge to grab. Because it is not highlighting it, or I'm not in a position where I can see it from where I am, so, it's...
Yeah, it doesn't need to constantly tell you. It's like, okay, I'm already looking. You don't need to remind me to look.
Yeah. Overall, it's a good game, though. Just, minor nitpicks about the story, minor nitpicks about the, overly hand-holdy tutorials.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully it won't be another year before we record again, and maybe, when you finish it, we can go back to it and see kind of how everything paid off.
Yeah. if it pays off.
Yeah. What the overall feeling is at the end. 1 second. Dying again. But, God, what have I been playing lately? So I've been, I don't know, in and out of stuff. So, I finished a bunch of games at the start of this year. Back to back was just, finishing off stuff that I had either started late last year or just, shorter games that I had started after finishing those. So, I went through a bunch of stuff, back to back. And then, I had 4 months of playing nothing. I just stopped playing stuff. I just had no focus for anything. And I'm kinda back in that right now. Though it's it's more a result right now of being so focused on other stuff. D&D in particular eats up a lot of just mental energy, and I'll get hyper focused on a project, and then everything else just falls to the wayside. I recently did the 2 homebrew races that I made, which I'm maybe a little more proud of than I should be. I think the Milven are hilarious. But so I know, late last year I had started Death's Door. and I finished that at the start of this year. Fantastic game. So, like, the game very much is, like, you can play it on its own, but, like, there's, like, this... there's a, Jesus. So, there's a post-game after you beat the final boss where you can do some extra stuff. I want to say there's like one extra boss fight. I think it's just one. But there's like all these like little puzzle things you can do to find these like stones that you can collect.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get all of them and you take them to this area, you go into this like area and you get this ending that kind of explains you get this ending that explains the kind of like the what led up to the story, because like basically the inciting incident in the game, like you are essentially a Grim Reaper. You're this little crow, and you have to go collect this soul. And you go into this little area, and you fight the first boss, and then, like, someone knocks you out, and they take its soul. And you get up, and you follow them, and it's this, like, this really big crow that's, like, really old. And, they take the soul to Death's Door. It's this one door that just can't normally open, and they put it into Death's Door. And basically, they tell you that, like, you're, like, when the crows are assigned a soul, they have to bring that soul back to, like, the Soul Commission or whatever, in order to, like, cut off their, like, connection with, like, the mortal world. And by not being able to bring the soul back, they become mortal, and, like, they can die at that point.
Oh.
Like, they no longer get to enjoy their, like, eternal life unless they can get that soul back. So this crow basically had lost a soul behind this door, and is trying to use other, like, strong ancient souls to break down the door to, like, get in there. So he had taken the soul of, like, the first boss you beat, and, like, basically it tells you, like, if we want to get in there, we have to get more souls to break this. So that's, like, your inciting incident. So you find out that, like, in this, like, bonus, like, secret ending, you find out that the soul that had gone into this door that crow was assigned to, bring back is the soul of the character from Titan Souls.
Oh.
It is a sequel to Titan Souls.
Huh.
And it's
I did not know they were even by the same studio.
Yeah, I had kind of the same reaction when I found out. So that ending basically just exists to kind of connect back to Titan Souls and, like, show how the game worlds are connected. So after beating the game and, like, getting the bonus ending, I decided to finally go back and try to beat Titan Souls again.
Oh, boy.
I still posit that it is one of the hardest games I have ever played. Like, there's things where it's like, okay, like, the final fight took me maybe, like, 30 minutes. Which, in the grand scheme of things, like, if you compare it to, like, a Dark Souls boss or whatever, like, that doesn't sound like very long. But in those 30 minutes... And actually, it might have been closer to, like, an hour. Maybe it was, like, 45, somewhere. Either way. But, like, in that short amount of time, I died maybe, like, 40 times.
Wow.
Because it is a very quick game.
Right.
One hit and you're dead.
Yeah.
You land the one hit like, the one real hit you need on the enemy, they're dead. But every enemy is, like, every boss is essentially, like, a puzzle where you have to figure out, like,
Right.
how to get to their weak point to hit it. And so, even if you know the trick, it's still a pain in the ass. It's a very tough game that is very punishing because it's just, oh, I got hit once, I fucked up. So you have to basically get everything down to like a perfect science.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's achievements for basically every boss of like killing them in a certain way. And like some of them are like, kill this boss within 10 seconds.
Oh. God.
And you have to be like fucking on it. I went for basically all those achievements.
Of course.
Because of course I did. Like, one of them is, there's like a plant boss that has like these big, like, spiky vines that it like smashes and kind of spins around. And you can shoot the vines to like cut them off. And you have to remove all of the vines from it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they're segmented. So it's like, one vine will have maybe like 20 segments or whatever, and you can cut it at any point. But you have to cut it all the way at the base. So it becomes kind of a challenge just to like get those all cut off, and then the vines are still there in the arena as spikes that you can't walk into. So every time you cut off a vine, you're essentially making a wall that you cannot pass.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So you have to then try to beat like the boss and like do the stuff to actually like damage the boss while also avoiding all these hazards you made for yourself. But apparently if you play the game on hard mode, there's like another like bonus boss. I did not do that because it's like a side extra thing, and you don't really need to do it for anything other than just like you went and did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fuck that, I'm not dealing with it. But yeah, I ended up beating that, and I felt really good about that because that is a very hard game. And like, all things considered, it didn't take very long to beat, but like, if I look at like time invested versus number of deaths, it's like that game makes you work for it. But I was very happy to finally like, and I did a couple moments where like I would look up a boss and kind of see like what the trick was to get like the achievement for that boss.
Mm-hmm.
Because originally, the first time I played the game, I got stuck on the Yeti, who you have to shoot him in the butt. He has like a baboon butt. You gotta shoot him in the butt.
Of course.
But like, he starts the fight and he just like goes into a ball and like charges at you, and then when he hits the wall, icicles fall down. And so it's like, you have to dodge him, and then you also have to dodge the icicles, and like, he doesn't stop for more than like half a second. So you have to be like in the right position to where like after he bounces off the wall, you are in the position to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a delay on like charging up and shooting your arrow, so like you want to be standing in a place where you're not going to get hit by the icicles, but like they're kind of set to like fall where you are essentially. Right. So it's just it's a lot, and like I rage quit at the game the first time I tried to play through it because I could not beat this boss, and I was able to finally beat that one and able to do all the others after it. But yeah, that was like a fight that I actually had to kind of saved like for towards the end, and I was dreading because it was such a pain in the ass the first time. And his special achievement isn't like a special kill or anything, it's just like do it in like 10 seconds. So basically, his first attack at you, you have to get him like the earliest possible moment after that first like charge. So that was fun. But I think after that is when I like spent a long time taking a break from basically everything. Like, wasn't really doing much in like Final Fantasy 14. I wasn't really playing anything else. But like I'd beaten those two games and kind of felt good, and was just like on a break from everything. And then I finally got around to playing Unsighted. Damn, that game is good.
The name sounds familiar. What is that one?
So it's a Metroidvania, top down. And the premise is like the world is full of like automatons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember. I saw the Steam page for that. I was like,
Yeah.
It's like, I remember the name. What was that? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's the world full of robots.
That one.
Your character starts with amnesia. You just kind of like wake up in a lab and you don't know what's going on. And like you basically learn that like there was this meteor filled with this substance called anima that like gave robots sentience. And
as they do.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta give your robots sentience. But humanity, who at this point have like more or less wiped out like being able to properly live on Earth, and like they're living in like space stations, and like the automatons are basically like cleaning up the world for them kind of thing. But humanity decides like it wants the power of like the anima, and like they start trying to like they basically start a war with the automatons, and eventually they like park this like giant like tower on top of the meteor, which cuts off its ability for like anima to get out. And so all the robots who had previously had sentience, they kind of start going crazy because like they don't have this resource anymore, and they just kind of like turn into like these hungry monsters that are just like trying to kill other things to like get their anima. So every single character in the game, so like after you get past the tutorial, which like it has a pretty good little tutorial segment that like introduces you to like the combat and exploration and like gets you like a couple different weapons and stuff. After you finish that tutorial segment, and it takes you to like the town and stuff, and like you kind of learn what's going on, every NPC has a timer. In fact, every character has a timer, including you. So they have so many like in-game hours before they run out of anima and they go unsighted.
Oh, that's interesting.
So like one of the first things, like one of the first characters you run into is like a little like fairy robot. It's essentially like Navi from Zelda. Like her timer is like really short. It's like 120 hours or something. And like your character's is like 350 or something. So it's like chances are that character will go unsighted before the end of your playthrough. Now the game does have like difficulty settings, and if you don't want the pressure of that timer, you can turn off the timer. There's a difficulty mode called Explorer mode. And there's just there's a couple achievements you can't get with that mode active. But essentially, Explorer mode gives you like variable options for difficulty, which I really like. So you can turn off the timers, which is the only one I used. You can also like make combat less punishing, because combat is pretty tight. It's very much based around like parrying. So like when you parry something, you do double damage when you hit it back, and like the parry windows aren't like super bad, but they do take some getting used to for like each enemy. But like you can make the combat more forgiving, you can give yourself infinite health. Like I said, I just turned off the timers for my first playthrough. So my first playthrough of the game, exploring everything, getting 100%, finding all the items, took about 11 hours.
Wow.
My second playthrough, going in on New Game Plus, took an hour. Like, it was like an hour and a half or something. And, like, there's an achievement for, like, speedrunning the game, and you can do it in New Game Plus, and you have to beat the game in under an hour. And it's, like, turned out being one of the easiest achievements. But, like, doing subsequent playthroughs, because I ended up playing through the game, like, 6 times back-to-back, just because I wanted to get all the achievements and just keep exploring, like, that world. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story, and I just kind of enjoyed the gameplay. But, like, every playthrough I did after that first one where I turned off the timer, I realized how strict those timers really are. Like, I had a run that took about 3 hours to beat the game, and I lost, like, 2 NPCs. Now, keep in mind, it took me 11 hours to 100% it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And in 3 hours, you start losing characters. Now, there's an item called Meteor Dust that you can find, and then, like, later, if you do, like, a certain side quest, you can, like, synthesize. And you can give Meteor Dust to characters, and they gain an additional 24 hours. And, like, every character has, like, a relationship meter, so if you give them 3 Meteor Dusts and, like, max out their relationship, they give you, like, a special item. And some of these are, like, really good. Like, one of them lets you, like, you can craft things called gears, that are, like, temporary buffs. So, like, one of them is, like, the defense gear, and, like, when you take a hit, like, it eats the hit instead of your health bar. Now, normally you have to craft these at a crafting table, but there's, like, a portable crafting table one of the characters gives you, so you can just craft shit in the middle of a boss fight by just pulling up the pause menu. Which makes some of the harder fights much more manageable when you can just sit there and be like, defense gears, revive gears, just constantly throughout the fight.
Wow.
But, like, yeah, those timers end up, like, you really feel the pressure going through with those timers and being like, you can't save everyone. On the flip side, though, there is an extra, like, secret boss you can do. And if you do this secret boss, so it's actually like a chain of, like, there's one secret boss that gives you this key card, and then, like, in the final area, you can go into this side room where you find this blueprint, and then there's, like, another area you can go into that has its own secret boss, and, like, if you go through all that and you find all these, like, pieces in, like, hidden rooms off the side of the map for this blueprint, you can craft this, like, ancient clock, and you put it in this wall in this, like, secret dungeon, and it puts you back at the beginning. So, like, you have all your stuff, you've done all the progress stuff, but everyone's timers are reset.
Huh.
Anyone you've lost is back. By doing this, though, when you go and you fight the final boss, which is essentially like some kind of god being, it's a little fuzzy on what exactly they're supposed to represent, but I'm pretty sure it's some kind of god. They will actually call you out for messing with the timeline, and the boss has an extra phase if you do that. But it is a way to get the best ending despite the timers. Like, you can have everyone survive even if you ran out of time otherwise. And so it's like, it makes it really cool to kind of go through all that stuff, because there is just, like, so many, like, little things that you can miss in, like, a regular playthrough, I feel. And being able to just kind of go back and bring everyone back is kind of cool.
Yeah. Especially if it's like if it's a difficult challenge, and
yeah,
you know, makes it worth it. You earn your happy ending.
But yeah, very good game. I think I sunk like 50 hours into it. There's like 5 achievements I don't have. So there's a dungeon mode where, like, it's kind of like a roguelike mode. So there's one for doing it without dying, one for doing it within like 30 minutes or something. There's a boss rush mode where you're just going to bosses. Again, that has one for, like, without dying and one for, like, within 30 minutes or whatever. You know, like, speedrun challenge, survival challenge. And then there is the Parry Master achievement.
That sounds fun.
So, in the, like, main hub town area, there's, like, a training dojo area you can go into where it kind of teaches you how to parry. And the NPC, you can have them, they have like a parry challenge you can do. And basically it just keeps sending enemies at you, and just to, like, keep making you have to parry over and over. And it gets harder and harder as it goes, and you have to get 100 perfect parries without getting hit.
Oh.
That's the achievement. I got to, like, 42 or something. Like, it's tough. But, it does feel good. Like, the parry system, once you get it down, does feel good, but man, that achievement is hard because it's just like it's a constant barrage, and like it starts hitting this point where it's like here's like 3 enemies.
Jeez.
But yeah, very good game. Highly recommend. You would probably like it.
I think I put that on my wish list. I'm not sure. I think so. It said you were playing Neon White.
Oh, that's a good game too. I haven't finished that one yet, and I think I'll save talking about Neon White until I've actually finished it. Mm-hmm. That game, unfortunately, awoke the competitive edge in me.
Oh.
And, like, it's very much a speedrun based game. It's a first-person platformer, think like Mirror's Edge.
Oh, yeah?
And all the levels are fairly short, at least the early ones. I hear they get longer at the end. But, you get a medal for, like, however fast you beat it, right? There's bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum. And there's, like, in-game bonuses for getting platinums on all the stages. There's also, like, a red medal you can get, which is beating the developer's time.
Oh.
Which didn't know about until someone that I'm friends with managed to do that for a level. And then after, like, other friends started playing it, I went back to earlier stages and started playing through it again. Trying to beat their times, and I've earned, like, 4 or 5 developer medals.
Wow.
But yeah. I'm gonna pause for a second. But yeah, so basically what had happened with Neon White, so a friend of mine picked it up and, like, started playing it and was like, this game is amazing, you need to play it. And I shared Steam libraries with them, so I was playing it via their Steam library while they were sleeping, basically. And I was like, yes, this game is very good. The story is really interesting, and, like, the dialogue is hilarious. Like, there's a part where you're the main character, Neon White, basically, like, asks another character, like, do you really think I'm that sleazy? And her response is like, yes, but the classy kind that would catch a girl's spit in his mouth.
What? Okay.
It's just like, I mean, alright.
Sure.
She's a little crazy, but Neon Violet is probably, like, a whole, like, case study worth of mental problems, I feel. But yeah, so, like, I had been playing it, and then we went on vacation for a week. We went to go visit my brother for a week in Texas. And during that time, like, that entire, like, my friend had convinced, like, the entire circle of people to start playing it. So, like, when I got back, now, like, 5 other people I knew had played the game. Huh. And so, like, I go back and, like, I was looking at my, like, times on stages and realizing that, like, well, I have to reassert my dominance and have the best time now.
Oh, no.
So, of the people who started playing
caught in the cycle now.
Yeah, no, it turned into a whole thing. So it's like I haven't made any story progress since coming back from vacation, because the couple times when I have, like, gone in to play the game, I just have been going into beat previous times on stages I've already done from, like, the first 3 chapters. But there's 2 people on my friends list, because, like, you can look at, like, just, like, friend times, or you can look at global times, which, like, ain't no way I'm getting anywhere near the top of those global leaderboards.
I've never trust global leaderboards. Always hackers.
I looked up some videos of, like, world records for some of the stages, and, like, this shit's fucking bullshit. It is a game where the developers actively encourage the like community to like find ways to break things. Like, if you can find a way to break a stage and finish it significantly faster than was like ever thought of, they applaud that, which is cool. Also, weird random fact: the developer is the same person who made Tattletale, the weird horror game with like the Furby things.
Huh.
So that's a thing.
Interesting shift of design philosophy there.
Yeah, so it caught me off guard, and then it made more sense when I learned why. But basically, when you're doing the stages, like stages always have a gift somewhere where like you have to do like some extra weird platforming to get to, and you can give the gifts to the other characters to like progress their story and like learn more about that character and their relationship with White. And one of the characters, her gift is the little Tattletale dolls. And I was like, why the fuck is that in here? And then later I learned, and I was like, now it makes more sense that the Tattletale doll is here. I had questions. Those questions have been answered.
It's always fun to when developers include stuff like that, just like random references to their other games.
But yeah, so there's two people on my friends list that like I will forever feel like I'm struggling against their times. So one of them is just the kind of person who will get very good at a game and will put like their all into it. Like, they've only made it up to chapter 3 in the game because they just keep trying to like get their times as good as possible. They're the first one who like got the developer medal, and like how I found out that was a thing. And then there were a couple stages when I was going back through trying to beat times where I beat their time like just barely. Like, I will beat their time by maybe like 0.1 second, and I'll be like, hey, so there was another developer medal that you were 0.1 second off of. Which then, of course, makes them want to go back. And so it's like, they've not made any progress, I've not made any progress. It's a whole thing. But the other person is like, at first, when I saw like their name on like the list of people, I was like, I refuse to have a time worse than them. It's one of those people I know that like sometimes can be like frustrating to deal with, but the further in I got, I basically realized that like they started doing pretty much what like I started doing, of like looking up like how to get faster times in stages, but like they're better at executing it in some of those stages. So there are times that they have where I'm just like, I give up, you win. Where I just like, I see it and I'm like, I can't beat that, and I'm gonna have to concede this time to you. But it's another game where it starts off with the main character having amnesia, funnily enough. But the whole premise is that you are sinners from hell who have been brought up into heaven to exorcise demons, while the enlightened sit back and watch you compete.
Because this is heaven, we're not supposed to do any work. Bring up some peons from the underworld.
and like the whole idea is like, whoever like executes the most gets to basically, they get to spend a year up in heaven and get to like be up there until basically the next time this essentially tournament happens. And like the other characters you interact with, like you kind of piece together that you were part of some kind of crime organization, and like the other characters you interact with, as well as like the main antagonist, were like members of this crime organization as well.
Hence being in hell, I would imagine.
Yeah. But like, there's still a lot of like questions about how, like, because I haven't finished it, I'm like chapter 6 or 7 out of 10. I think I finished chapter 6, so I'm like on chapter 7. And there's like a lot of questions of like, okay, how did I die? Why doesn't White have his memories, but everyone else does? And just kind of piecing together like story bits. But it's a very interesting game. The main character is voiced by Steve Blum.
Oh.
Which was unexpected when I started the game to like suddenly hear his voice, especially since like the friend who had told me to play the game like had just recently made them watch Cowboy Bebop.
Huh.
Because they had never seen it before. I was like, all right, we're making you watch Cowboy Bebop. And like the day after we had finished it was when I got around to starting Neon White, and I was just like, so I wasn't expecting to be greeted with that voice.
I just rewatched Cowboy Bebop not that long ago because the Netflix series made me want to watch the good series again.
Made you want to watch the good one.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think the Netflix one was, like, terrible, but, I mean, like, it felt like a different adaptation of, like, the same source material, even though, like, the original was the source material. It just it felt, you know, it's like if it was an adaptation of like a manga version, which I think Cowboy Bebop was entirely originally anime.
Yeah,
like it's one of those rare ones that's not based on a manga. But yeah, it's like if the original anime was an adaptation of a manga, and then this live action version was an adaptation of the same manga but done differently. Like,
yeah,
if you look at it like that, it's not as bad as a lot of people like said it was. But yeah, it was still not like.
There's a channel
not
I watch.
Amazing.
There's an anime channel I watch on YouTube called Mother's Basement, and he has a very good roast of the Netflix Cowboy Bebop, and like he puts it in probably the best way of like. When it's trying to do something one for one with the original show, it does it very poorly. But when it's doing its own thing as like its own interpretation of the characters, it's actually interesting and had a lot of potential, but it's just like when they try to like copy directly and like bring the anime into live action, they fumble it really bad.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment. Like, I didn't overall C- maybe. You know, it's not not a complete total horrendous failure. Like,
it's no Netflix Death Note, but
but that's not saying much.
Yeah, it's like it's passable, but also like I can kind of understand the fact that they canceled season 2.
God, I mean the only reason to watch the Netflix Death Note is to complain about it and make fun of it and hate it.
Yeah.
It's one of those adaptations that
they're doing...
even calling it an adaptation is kind of an insult to the source material. Like, it's
Netflix needs to stop doing live action anime because every time they do, it's very bad. They're doing Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh, that should be interesting. I don't know anything about the original. Other than that it was on, but I'd never watched it. I don't know. Never.
I saw most of it.
Never grabbed my attention.
Yu Yu Hakusho is a very competent show with the world's best tournament arc. The Dark Tournament is the tournament arc by which all other tournament arcs are generally compared against. Because it's just that well done. You get a lot of like character development during the tournament arc just through like showing off cool fights. And it's something that has always stuck with me over the years. Like, I forget 98% of that show. But I remember the Dark Tournament.
Yeah, there you go.
I also remember like very early on, there's this character, she's like the you know, the wizened old martial arts master character. So, like, the main character wants to train under her or whatever, and, like, all the people who are, like, trying to train under her, like, she's basically like, okay, you all have to go through this forest, and like, if you get to me by like this time, then like I'll agree to train you. And like all these people take like all these different paths and stuff, and like the main character's just like, idiots, I'm just gonna go straight through the middle. And there's like this really powerful, like, early show powerful, but really powerful like demon or whatever that's like in the middle of the forest that he ends up having to fight through. And so it's like he shows up like past like the cutoff, but then like when he like makes mention of like going straight through the middle, like she makes the exception to train him as well, because like, what the fuck, what do you mean you went through the middle?
Like, nobody goes through the middle. Are you serious? Like, damn, you're like,
but like
you're
I'll always kind of
badass or both.
Yeah, basically. And I'll always kind of remember like that bit of like that character moment, because like it's just really cool. And like the early years of anime, you could do stuff like that and it'd be really cool. And like nowadays, if you did that with like a newer show, I feel like it wouldn't have the same impact. Like it'd feel like too cliche.
Yeah, because I mean, you can probably point to at least half a dozen other times where that same thing. I mean, that's like the entire point of like TV tropes, is to categorize these frequently used tropes. So
exactly.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a page that's called something clever for that exact thing, where it's like,
the straight route is not always the shortest,
or like
kind of trope,
or like honoring an agreement even though somebody failed to deliver on the terms because they like made up for it some other way. It's like, you failed this test, but I'm still gonna let you do the thing because you failed it in such a like
spectacular way.
And
or whatever. You decided to do the hard mode when everyone else was doing like baby mode, and like most of them died.
Yeah, exactly. So
but
yes, and like in the early days of anime, shit like that was like still new. So it makes sense that seeing it nowadays, it's like, yeah, I remember when this other show did that like 20 years ago, and that was cool and interesting and exciting, and this is like, it's just, all I can think is they did it first. So,
yeah, it's just kind of that like sense of like, it's been done before, and like, does this do something better with the idea, or does it just kind of rehash the same principle? And it's like,
or and
that's how all tropes are.
Yeah, and it's still, even if it doesn't do anything new or interesting with it, like, is it trying to, like, is it the point that it's better than are they trying to do it better? Do they succeed? If they're not trying to do it better, they're just using this trope as a way to move the plot along. It's like, whatever. It's it's not trying to be something it's not, then don't hold it up to the standard of something it's not.
Yeah, which is fair. And it's just, I don't know. There's definitely some things that like feel really cliche now, or it's like if something does that, it's like, oh yeah, this again.
Yeah.
And like, you definitely give a little more leeway to older stuff when they do it, because it's like, okay,
it was a new idea at the time, or a new-ish idea at the time.
Or like, whether or not it was new, it's just, it wasn't as common, right?
Yeah.
Because like, very few things are new ideas, let's be honest. Star Wars is just the hero's journey.
I was thinking about like stuff from Star Wars that has been redone so many times since then. It's like the idea of something that can blow up a planet. Like, in 1977, that was, I mean, probably a still relatively rare new idea in the area of science fiction. Like, I mean, even.
And now that's basically Monster of the Week.
Yeah, like back then, George Lucas was basing it on like the old like 50s and 60s like Flash Gordon and all that stuff. It was like where you had the ship flying around and you could see the strings, and and even the opening text, like the summary of that, like he took that directly from I think it was Flash Gordon. It might have been some other like big sci-fi series, but Yeah, it's just like at the time, the idea of like the bad guys have this weapon that can blow up a planet. That's a serious, big time, crazy, special effect overhauling idea there. And then it's like, nowadays, if somebody is like talking about that, it's almost like it's parody,
Right.
Like they're making a reference to Star Wars having done that. It's like, because like even in Toy Story, like the toy version of Buzz Lightyear, his backstory, he's like, yeah, evil Emperor Zurg is building a weapon that can destroy an entire planet. It's like, that's funny because Star Wars.
I mean,
like,
yeah,
but no, I'm
just like the idea of like,
not a lot of stories do that like fully seriously anymore.
It's
Because,
one of
like,
those things
it's
too,
just
where
such
like
a big.
when you think about like the threat of someone like something powerful enough to destroy a planet, like if you look at like anime, like that's like Dragon Ball Z villain of the week.
Yeah, well, I mean,
like
at the
Frieza could destroy a planet, and like every
after
villain since then is stronger than Frieza.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like they still had like a good like 2 or 3 arcs building up to Frieza even showing up. So
Yeah, no, like I still think
there's
that's
a
well done.
build
It's just
up to it. So
it's funny because it's like that's like the baseline now is can
Right.
this villain destroy a planet?
Yeah,
Um,
because like when Frieza did it, like it was to show, holy crap, this is seriously the strongest guy our main characters have ever seen up to this point. And yeah, after that it's like, oh, is he as strong as Frieza? Oh, he's way stronger than Frieza. Well, Frieza could blow up a planet. Like, I could blow up a planet. I mean, I'm not going to because there's no reason
because we
for me
did
to.
that already.
Yeah, I mean, I can threaten to if you don't beat me, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't need to demonstrate it unless, you don't beat me.
Or we could always just go to the ridiculous extreme of the sci-fi genre in anime and just be like Gurren Lagann.
Yeah.
They're
Like,
throwing
we throw
galaxies at
fucking
each other.
galaxies at each other. How many billions of people, how many billions of sentient life forms were destroyed because Gurren Lagann threw an entire fucking galaxy at the anti-spiral mech, and then did that, 4 or 5 more times, and, had to block 3 or 4 of them being thrown back at him, like...
And the anti-spirals just, like, threw a big bang. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Quintillions of people probably died. And, it's like, yeah, giant robots throwing galaxies at each other. It's cool. Like, you are just completely sidestepping the unfathomable level of collateral damage that has just been done to the universe here.
Don't worry about it. It all makes sense. Just don't think too hard about it, and it's fine. That is something I will always
it's fine.
appreciate
None of those
about
none of those galaxies had any life in them at all. They were just stars and planets and rock.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Anime gets crazy.
It does, but like that's why we love it.
Yeah. And that's why I should stay animated.
Yes.
Because live action adaptation just it never works. Like very like if there's fantasy elements to it, or like maybe sci-fi elements, sometimes depending on how just the effects, they can't do it.
Yeah.
Like something like Dragon Ball Z, you can't do that in live action.
There's a certain level of
not
like
going to look right, or you know, like Attack on Titan, or fucking like.
Well, there's
like the anime that are like anime that that is like set in the real world and has very little reliance on fantasy elements. Like like Death Note, I can see being well realized. Like they did it before, even before Netflix did it, and
Yeah.
it was fine. I mean,
Yeah,
the
the
CG. They just had to CG the
Shinigami.
The Shinigami, yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't terrible. I mean,
Yeah,
it could
the
have been better,
original live-action Death Note movies made in Japan, like way back when Death Note was still like in its prime, when it was like first like a huge thing. They're pretty good. Like they're not amazing, but like they're good. They're very faithful to like what it is, and like it can be done well. But yeah,
because it really it's a detective story with supernatural elements. It's not a supernatural story with detective elements. It's, you know, one character is committing crimes, and the good guy is trying to figure out how to stop him, like who he is, where he is, how to stop him, and the supernatural elements are, you know, kind of secondary, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they could easily do it without even having Ryuk show up at all, basically. I mean, he's an important character, but I mean, from a technical standpoint, it's just, you know, it's the notebook that's most important, and they don't need to, you know...
It doesn't necessarily have to be explained beyond it's this weird notebook.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, I mean, I'm not saying that would be good or anything, but, you know, I'm just saying, like, it's,
it could work.
Yeah, as far as, like, adapting an anime to live action, you don't want to have to rely too heavily on special effects, because it's going to
look off.
If they're not perfect, like 100% spot on, it's gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you're Netflix trying to adapt Death Note, you can have great CGI. Like, Ryuk was the highlight of that version. And
Ryuk was well casted in that version as well.
Like Willem Dafoe is fantastic, like perfect for that. Like, just the voice, and I don't know if they did motion capture or not for the character or not, but I mean, they could have done, because he's good with the face and the crazy faces and the voice and everything. Yeah, that was the only good choice that they made while making that movie.
Hey, at least they got something right.
Yeah,
but yeah, like
if they had just directly adapted, like, the anime or the manga, and I mean cut out like unnecessary extra stuff, or make it like a 2 or 3 part movie series, like they did for the
basically
the original adaptation.
If they didn't do what they did and just be like, we're making our own story with the same elements and not really the same characters, but they almost have the same names.
If it was a real adaptation, it would have been pretty good. Because you wouldn't have to worry about the special effects taking you out of it, because Ryuk looks like a CGI puppet or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, even in the original one, he didn't look terrible.
But yeah.
The original adaptation, the live-action one.
I think, like, a big problem that, like, live-action adaptations of just stuff that's animated in general has is just, like, there's a lot you can get away with in animation with, like, exaggeration that, like, really is a huge part of selling, like, what that is.
Right.
And it's hard to, like, accurately recreate some of that in live action. Like, Dragon Ball is a great example of, like, you have, like, your constant, like, fights where they're, like, throwing super fast punches and they're just kind of, like, a blur. And, like, you can't really do that in live action. Like, you can make gratuitous use of, like, slow motion, and you can do, like, some special effects stuff, but it doesn't look right.
Right.
And they've proved that
really
multiple times.
Really push the motion blur and, like, speed up the footage instead of slowing it down. You could maybe get something that kind of... I mean, you would have to also have, like, fighter stunt doubles or you know, people who are actually capable of punching really fast, and then speed that up so it looks superhuman. because these the people who are already trained to punch that fast and do all this high-speed martial arts are already like on a whole other level than most average humans could ever hope to achieve. Maybe you could approximate something that looks like a Dragon Ball fight, but it's still,
Yeah, it's not going to be the same, and it's
you would have to experiment a lot and do a lot of test footage, and
I think you quickly hit like the uncanny valley where it's just like
right.
it looks off, and like how it's supposed to look, and it doesn't match.
So it's like, unless you're adapting something that takes place primarily in, the real world,
right,
and has very little, if any, reliance on supernatural elements, then just don't bother trying to adapt an anime. Maybe you can do it with a sci-fi anime, like if you can get a decently realistic looking Gundam or something to like a CGI.
I mean, even then they
Gundam
could go
fight.
like the tried and true method of like Godzilla films, like
Yeah.
giant robots can be done in live action.
Yeah.
Pacific Rim is a great example
I was thinking
of that.
Pacific Rim too. with
Just the kaiju genre in general has proven this can work.
Yeah. And I'm trying to. I know I've seen more science fiction focused anime than just like Gundam and giant robot stuff, but
Space operas would probably be very easy to adapt.
yeah.
Like Irresponsible Captain Tyler would be a really easy one to adapt because it's basically just like comedy version of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Like stuff like that could work.
Yeah.
Part of my brain is like you could maybe pull off like Tenchi, but then like I can already picture the bad CGI they would use for like Ryoko's tail.
Oh. Oh man. No, they could totally do like an animatronic thing.
Yeah, but like, listen, I recently watched Cats 2019. That's a story for another day.
Why would you do that?
That's a story for another day. But if there's anything I have learned about Hollywood, they will use CGI if they can, because it's cheaper than doing animatronics, and it's gonna look bad.
Right. I don't know. I mean, for something that small, that's that, like, kind of important to that character design, I think going full CG for it would probably be more expensive than just rigging up some kind of animatronic thing. Like, it doesn't need to be that complex, it just needs to kind of move around, like, somewhat organically, and maybe most of the audience will notice that it's there but not pay significant amount of attention to how it's moving, because I mean, unless they're like serious nitpickers, like niche level nitpickers.
Her tail's not moving realistically.
Like, this is some of the worst animatronics I've ever seen in any kind of movie. It's like, it's a fucking tail. It could be put on a string and look better than, some of this other shit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as like a potential live action Tenchi though, that could work, because I mean,
there's some stuff that I think would end up being wonky, and there's stuff that I'm they would make CGI that they wouldn't need to make CGI, like the Guardians.
Another thing that I always see that always stands out to me in these live action anime adaptations is like costume design.
Yeah.
Because they make it too close to the actual original design, and it's like brightly colored, and it looks like cosplayers running around on screen.
Yeah,
and like
doesn't look right.
It just does not look right. Or
it also probably isn't very comfortable to move in.
Probably that too, yeah. like the Full Metal Alchemist adaptation has that a lot. There's a lot of that because they're all like in these brightly colored uniforms, and it's like, okay, they're brightly colored in the anime, because it's animated and there's
Yeah.
a lot of bright colors. It's a stylistic choice. You can tone down the brightness, make it more like a police dark blue kind of uniform,
Yeah.
or like a darker red cloak for Edward or whatever. You know, it doesn't have to be that faithful to the original design. You can.
I do feel with Edward, it does make sense for him to have a eye-soaringly bright red cloak, though, because he is very over the top and show-offy.
Maybe he
So,
could
like,
get away with it, but
that,
yeah,
sure. But everything else, yeah, maybe tone down the colors a little bit. Like, don't completely desaturate them, but, like, a little bit.
yeah. I mean, part of the reason people think dark and gritty when they think live action is because real life is gritty. Like, it's not perfectly clean and
Yeah.
bright and shiny most of the time, unless somebody is deliberately making it bright and shiny. So, you know, if you want something to look right, it can't be, you know, like blindingly
Bright.
like fluorescent blue
Yeah.
military uniforms. It's like that
That
no,
doesn't make any sense for the military.
it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't look right as an adaptation. So
Yeah.
yeah, and lots of other adaptations I can think of have done that. Like hell, even Dragon Ball. It's like Goku's orange
Jumpsuit.
jumpsuit. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's a little too orange for, you know, a real life person to like want to. I mean, they could have just made it like darker, or toned it down
Yeah.
a little bit.
Though,
It
let's
just-
be fair, Dragon Ball Evolution
Yeah, no, it was.
has a lot of other problems.
plen-
Like that's
yeah.
the lowest on the tier of problems with
Yeah,
that movie.
but it did manage to include one element of being too close to the animated version, and it's in some of the costumes where it's like
No, I
like-
can see that.
I know you guys only put him in that orange jumpsuit because he wore it in the cartoon, but you could have made it look a little more realistic and less like a costume being worn by like a
Yeah.
superhero.
Less of a cosplayer,
Yeah.
or superhero's a good
Yeah.
comparison.
Oh yeah, and like even the Marvel movies and all those adaptations, like they managed to adapt these crazy brightly colored superhero outfits and make them look practical and more
Yeah,
reasonable to be seen on screen without
without losing.
too much
Yeah.
personality. Like Iron Man is still red and gold and but it's
but not like fire truck red.
yeah.
Which, like, if you look at like some of the old comics, or like even like the old cartoon from like the 80s and 90s,
Yeah, he's like bright
he
red.
was fire truck red.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, and that's a good example actually of like how you can make a costume accurate to the character without like making it feel like it's just a costume that like a cosplayer would wear at a convention.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like something that like you bought little Timmy for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it kind of fits a little better. But before we go too deep into another hour of this kind of discussion, I think we're probably at a
2-hour
good
mark.
Yeah, I think
Well-
we're at a good point to cut off.
Plus or minus like 3 or 4 minutes of whatever.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit of silence to cut out, and at the beginning and the break earlier, and yeah. But
Yeah.
I do want to do more spellcasts, like specifically. Like I want to get back to recording more of like actual
Mhm.
gameplay stuff as well. I do want you to finish Okami because I love that game. It's been a while. We're definitely gonna need some catch up on like what we were even doing.
Well, I'll be able to do that when I actually edit this batch of episodes that I've been holding on to since the end of 2019.
Yep. But
Uh,
I would like to do more of
I'm
these
going
regularly.
to do it. I will do it tomorrow, in fact, because I don't have anything specially planned for tomorrow, so I will do that tomorrow. I will edit those, like, 4 or 5 episodes, however many it is,
Good
just
plan.
into one big video, and I'll record a short explanation intro like I've done before for some of the other episodes that have had some strangeness going on, be like, yeah, this is why this episode is what it is. Either I hope you like it, or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully we can do these more often as well, though. I think we could start doing, like, not even necessarily, like this is, again, a long one, not as long as our last one, which was 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, if we do them more often, they won't have to be as long.
Yeah,
so.
Like 30 minutes to an hour we could probably stick to, depending on how often we wanted to do them, even if we're just doing them, like, after D&D.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do that either before or after D&D, depending on how that works out. But
yeah, either way works, really. But it'd be nice to do more of these, because we can talk about all the many things. We can go into more of the games we've played, anime we've watched, movies we've watched.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I won't get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll next time.
Yeah. We don't have an outro thing that we say.
Yeah, we really don't.
If you've stuck with this whole almost 2-hour thing, thanks, I guess.
Thanks for listening to us ramble. Sorry I kept coughing. Hopefully next time that won't be a thing.
Yeah, it happens. We've recorded while recovering from sickness before.
Yeah.
So,
I tried to lean away from the mic for everyone's sake.
I appreciate that, because coughing in my face, even though whatever you had is probably not contagious anymore. I would hope not, but
it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah. If I get sick in the next couple of days, I'll know who to blame, but
valid.
I haven't gotten seriously sick in like 2 years since the fucking quarantine shit started, so I had like a couple of days of what was probably just bad allergies, but it didn't get beyond that like it does sometimes and progress to a full-blown being sick status, so I'm still gonna say I haven't been sick since, like November of, or hell, probably earlier in like 2019. I don't know.
Fair enough. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you next time, if there is a next time. Hope there's a next time.